in Lisa's presentation this morning? Yeah? Oh, good. Good. Oh, good. We're going to talk about attitudes and relationships today. And today's going to be pretty interactive. Okay? So, I'm not going to be just talking and you just sitting. You came today, hopefully to take something home with you. I have no script for what that is. I never have a script for anyone else, or I try not to. When I do have a script, I try to tear it up. You know what I mean by a script? Like my idea, what you should do, or how you should do it? No. You know. And so today, we'll talk about some of the blocks that keep us from moving forward. I think happiness is a really important thing, not just la la la. I mean deep happiness inside, with your life. And we're going to talk a little bit about the grievances that we have that hold us back. Maybe it's something that when you were 4 years old, or 10 years old, or 20, or whatever it was. We're going to talk about the past and the relationship to the present and future of it. Okay, and there's a saying I like to use that your attitude is everything. Now, this is very absolute. Wait a minute, how can that be? How can it be that attitude is everything? But when you think about it, you think about anything in your life, anything you do, anything you see, anything you are, and how you experience that is determined by the attitude you have. Okay? So, attitude is not just, well, I got an attitude. No. Attitude is the way we frame our world and how we see the world. And yesterday at the talk, I said, it's like my belief system is what I see in the world. There's an incident, my belief system, my perceptions overlay it, and how I perceive that incident is unique to me. But my ego, my personality says, don't you all see it the same way? Right? We think the world sees the world the way we do. But we don't. We all see it individually. And part of today is to raise our respect for that idea that every single person sees and thinks differently. And if we're lucky enough to have people that we understand, like our friends or our partners, that's really amazing. And even though no two will ever see it exactly the same, that would be really boring, wouldn't it? It's like just being with yourself. So these are the opportunities, that we have to, with those differences, how do we make them fantastic? How do we celebrate the differences in other people? With meaning, the people in our lives, our siblings, that we grew up with, our parents, our extended family, our school, the people that taught us. We're going to talk about forgiveness today. And how do we release some of the pain from the past, that holding on. I'll define attitudinal healing again. The bad news is attitudinal healing isn't about healing somebody else's attitude. It would be nice if we knew how to heal somebody else's attitude. No. It's about healing our own attitude. That's what we're in charge of. Okay. So attitudinal healing is the realization that it's not other people or experiences in our lives that cause us to be upset. But it's our thoughts and our attitudes and our judgments about those people and experiences in the past. that cause us to have distress in the present. I can't change what happened to me as a kid. My father's dead already. I mean, I can't do anything there. But I can heal my own mind, not through denial. This is really important today. No matter what we talk about or do, there's no room for denying the reality of what occurred. There's no covering over and saying, oh no, it wasn't that bad, or, you know, my belief says I should just forgive you. None of that, because it did occur, and it hurt, and it was painful, and whether it was with family, with friends, with your in school, or if you felt left out, or your business, betrayal is something that comes in our lives in kind of different forms, some of us. Lack of trust, etc. So today, what we're going to talk about has a very wide application in life. And if you go away with any tools to help you in the moments of decision, remember I said that attitude is how it affects the challenges of our lives. And every single person in this room has had probably thousands of challenges in their lives. Everyday challenges, everyday choices. Someone cuts you off on the road, right? You have lots of, it's a challenge. You almost get killed. Then you have a choice how to deal with it, okay? And then you have the choices that create the changes, and the changes create your transformation. And that just reminded me of an incident about 2 months ago. My sister lives not too far from me, and we tried to get together and go swimming once a week if we can. We were driving into Tiburon, and a small road too, right? And I was going the speed limit, which is low, because my sister is nervous in the car. And I was going, and there was a Tesla behind me. Ready to go, coming right up behind me, and I was watching. And I decided not to go faster, because I wanted to consider my sister. And the Tesla came around the side of us, in the bike path, really sharp, and cut us off. And my sister got so upset. She was really nervous. And I didn't say anything. And then she said to me, why aren't you upset? I said, why wasn't I upset? I said, well, I was busy blessing this person, sending this person some good energy, that they would calm, that they wouldn't hurt themselves, that they wouldn't hurt another, and that when they went on the road. So I think I was just sending them a blessing. Because I said to her, I don't want to carry that person around with me all day. Because every time we don't do our business, every time we don't release, it's like having a suitcase. So at that moment, my sister could choose, and I chose, to have a suitcase. I put this guy and his Tesla in my suitcase, and I would have carried it around all day, or who knows for how long, right? No, I'd rather travel lightly. I didn't do it and let it go. And it was such a teaching moment for both of us, because I hadn't experienced that before. But that was a moment of challenge. That was a moment of choice. That was a moment for change for myself and for my sister. It's little, because you get cut off on the road all the time here, right? People cut you off, whatever. You have a choice with every single thing you experience every day. It's so powerful. We have no idea how powerful we are. We think we are limited to these bodies that are born into family, environment, nature, nurture, our schooling, our community, our higher education, our work, and we think that's who we are. The good news is we are so much more than that. We have so much power in our lives. We don't have the power to change everything in the world. And in fact, most things make us feel powerless because we have no capacity to change them. And they hurt, and things happen. But we have so much power because of the attitude that we hold in the world. You are in charge of your attitude. It's like upgrading your computer from 1.0 to 2.0. I'm constantly trying to upgrade my attitude. It's like, whoa, I have more power than I ever dreamed I had. I have the power of creation of my inner world. And the principles of attitudinal healing are that, one of them is that, I think it's number 9, regardless of what is happening on the outside of me, I always have a choice to choose peace over conflict. And I have a choice to choose love over fear. Every single moment. When I'm conscious, if I'm not conscious, my ego is going to take over. I would have just responded to that driver with my own rage and just made more anger in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it doesn't serve me anymore. It's like a dance step. You take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. It's kind of like learning is like that. And sometimes we forget. I forget. There's a saying in Attitudinal Healing, that we're all students and teachers to each other. Every moment. That person in the Tesla was a teacher because he gave me the opportunity. The opportunity to choose. The Dalai Lama speaks of, when he speaks of forgiveness, I have a whole cycle of the energy around forgiveness. One of them he said is, you look at every person and every experience, which is our student and teacher idea, and it's like someone has presented you with a beautiful box, a present that's wrapped beautifully. And you open it up if you choose, like the Tesla driver. And inside you see, what did this person give me? Oh, the gift of tolerance. The gift of not feeling like a victim. Or it could be another thing that someone gives you patience. This is the gift. If you choose to see every single person as your teacher. My husband used to look at little kids and see them as his teacher. When we were in Australia decades ago, there was a 6-year-old girl. Now she's in her 40s, and I will be staying with them in a few months. They have the Center for Attitudinal Healing in Perth, Australia. And her name is Manisha. And she looked up at my husband, Jerry, and she said, Jerry, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. And Jerry looked at her and said, Manisha, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. Her openness, her purity, this beautiful being. So everyone is a teacher. It could be the worst person in your world. So I'm from the United States, as you know. We have a few politicians that we have to use forgiveness in our hearts all the time. Not that we agree with them, okay? None of that. But it's like a great challenge. So I'm still looking in the box for Donald Trump. I'm still working on it. Still working on it. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. This is just very quick. It'll take a minute. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to remember the very first number that comes in your mind, okay? And the scale is 0 to 100. There's no prize here. There's no good or bad or whatever. This is just something about yourself. Okay. Here's the question. At the deepest level inside of you, how much from 0 to 100, it could be 27, it could be 50, it could be 40, it could be 90, how much at a core level, do you really believe you deserve the right to be happy? How much at a core level do you really believe you deserve the right to be happy? Okay, that's enough time for the first number. The rest of it is all the reasons and everything else, so we'll stop there. Okay, so just with a real quick show of hands, how many people said from 0 to 10%? Nope. Okay, how about 10 to 20%? Okay. And 20 to 30%? 30 to 40%? 40 to 50%? 50 to 60%? 60 to 70%? 70 to 80%? 80 to 90%? 90 to 100? 92. How many were 100? Wow. Wow. I'm going one today. That's amazing. Okay, so the reason I asked you to do that, when I was about 19 and 20, my sister, my older sister, I was making choices that were causing me stress, etc. They are important, but they weren't. My sister said something to me. This is one of those moments that like change your life. A miracle is a shift in perception that removes the blocks to the awareness of love's presence in our lives. Remember I said that yesterday? That's love with a capital L. A miracle is a shift in perception that removes the blocks to the awareness of love's presence in our lives. Okay? This was one of those moments. I love these moments because they like define my life. I probably forgot everything the year before and the 2 years after, but I remember this moment. My sister said to me, Diane, at a core level, I don't think you really believe you deserve the right to be happy. And I went, what? What do you mean? And she said, look at the choices in your life, with the challenges you have, look at the choices you're making. And those choices are determining how your life changes. And I thought about it. And I've thought about it ever since. You know, for half a century. Almost. And, God, I'm really good at it. And it showed me that as I think, so I create. We co-create our life. One half is the world does what it does, right? We have things that happen to us. We could name 100 things right now that happen to us in everyday life that we have no control over. A car accident, your body gets smashed. I mean, so many things, right? That's the one half that we don't have control over. The co-creation is that we are so powerful that we have the ability to deal with whatever happens to us, regardless of what it is. Life, death, divorce, separation, everything. We have the ability to deal with it. So it's about that part of us that creates how we deal with life. That starts with the attitude, goes to the challenges, goes to the choices, goes to the changes. And if whatever you believed, your percentage of happiness in this world that you deserved, that is what, at some level, you are co-creating. Now, I don't want you to feel badly about the number in your head, okay? I don't want you to. I want you to use it as a barometer to say, wow, that's where I feel now. I want to be higher than that. I want to be way up there. I don't know where I got this idea that I don't deserve the right to be happy, but I want to change that. For a lot of us, we came from certain religious backgrounds, okay? And guilt was a big part of that. My husband comes from a Jewish tradition. I came from a Catholic tradition. He goes, I thought the Jews were the most guilty people in the world, but I see the Catholics, they're just right next to us. And so we have, of all the beautiful things we got from our faith and our traditions, there are things that we have taken as children and said, oh, no, I can't do that, I can't do this. And in so many ways, it made us really good people, strong people. Now we're all grown up, and this is about thinking, about choosing once again to make a different choice about your life. So what is it that holds us back the most? What holds us back in life from moving forward? Does anyone have an idea? I mean, there's no real answer. I just want to know. Yes.
Beliefs.
Our beliefs, right? Our hello.
I don't know the word in English, but
Your paradigm. Yes, what you believe, what you've been taught. Perfect. It's the frame within which we were raised, and the limitations of our parents and our grandparents. And we so often look at them and go, oh, if they hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be this way. But they did. And at some level, they did the best they could for what they knew. It doesn't justify or not justify what someone did. People are responsible for what they do. And that they need to be also called to justice or whatever it is. So, what is the idea, this concept of forgiveness? Now I'm going to ask you to interact with me. And say it loudly. Oh wait, I know, I have to listen. I can translate what you said maybe, but it probably won't be quite there. A little bit of Spanish is dangerous. What is idea of forgiveness? We have, I use this now? Oh, forgive. Oh, yeah, good, thank you. So, this idea of forgiveness, what does forgiveness mean to you? And it means many different things to people. What does forgiveness mean? I will get, she wants to speak loudly and be free. She's going to move quickly.
Just be free.
To be free. Right. Is that translated? To be free. To be free. Yes. Oh, yes. Forgiveness frees you. Right? You know, forgiveness is the forgiveness. We have a book. Forgiveness is the key to helping us. Yes. More. Yes. In the back. Oh, there it is.
Es el mejor regalo que me puedo dar.
The best person you can be yourself. The best present. Oh, you can give is yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
To herself.
The best gift I can give is myself. Yeah.
I'm going to use a metaphor. A
Oh,
metaphor.
wait, 1 second. Am I listening? Say it in Spanish.
¿En español?
En español, so everyone can
Ok.
hear you. Thank you.
Voy a usar una metáfora. Desamarrar de mi cuerpo al muerto y tirarlo. O sea, liberarme de toda carga, culpa y deshacerme de ella, olvidarla.
Thank you. Who else? What up? Over there? Okay. Diane is getting her exercise
Acabo de leer un libro y una psiquiatra dice que el perdón es dar un bien tras recibir un daño.
Ah. Who else? Anyone else? Anyone else? No. Oh, over here, over here. Over there.
Puede ser salirte de ti mismo para ver las cosas de otro modo.
To see differently. Yes. With new eyes.
Liberarte.
Yes.
Es perdonarme. Perdonarme es sanar mi alma.
Yes. See. Up here. Or is it up here? Dos.
Perdonar es vivir.
And next to her,
Es sanidad, cuidar de mi salud.
yes, that's your mental health. Yeah, emotional health. Sí. Muy importante. What else?
Ver y donar. Donar es pasar adelante.
Okay. Two more. There and one over here. Oh, there, three more.
Para mí el perdón es una elección, es un paso que yo elijo dar para poder ser feliz sin guardar rencor a esa persona que me haya causado un daño.
Okay. Maybe just two more. Two here on each side of the aisle.
Para mí el perdón es estar en paz conmigo y con los demás.
Para mí es sanarme porque tener esas cosas dentro de mí me enferman, me contaminan.
Ah, yes, thank you. I know there are many more ideas. Did you have one person more that wanted to do it? Okay, did you, Diana, are we complete, or did you have one more? No, okay, I think we'll go on. So now, okay, here's the other side of the question. Yes? Yes, okay. Thank you.
Sí, para mí el dolor es como un camino de dolor como para sanar o al final un bienestar, o sea, pero algo que me duele, que concientiza, pero al final necesito ese dolor para estar bien, para sanar.
Interesting. Thank you. So on the other side of that, I know there are many other ideas about it. If all those things are valid, which they are, why don't we forgive? Why don't we forgive? What are the reasons we don't forgive? Raise your hands. Why don't we forgive?
A veces es difícil creer que la persona pide perdón sinceramente, porque al final de cuentas a veces es la hipocresía, a veces el perdón es totalmente falso.
Okay? Why else don't we forgive?
Por el miedo y por la costumbre a seguir viviendo en esas situaciones y no ver más allá.
So the fear that is going to happen again, too. In the microphone?
Por tener, creo que es por tener expectativas sobre cómo debe ser el otro y cómo el otro debe ver lo que yo veo.
Right. So the idea that forgiveness has to look like something. Like I say something, and you say something, and back and forth, and then we hug each other. And if it doesn't look like that, it's not forgiveness. Okay, very good. Okay, go ahead.
Por tener miedo de nuestra propia responsabilidad en ese conflicto, por quererle sacar la vuelta a nuestra actitud en ese mismo conflicto.
Yes, so we don't want to take the responsibility of our part. It's easier to blame the other person. It's so easy to blame, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Especially when they're not here or they're dead. But it's so easy just to keep blaming somebody else, right? So it's looking at the responsibility ourselves, we don't want to do that, or it's too frightening, or we don't know how. Usually we don't know how. That's what today's about.
Porque nos apropiamos de los problemas y nos falta inteligencia emocional.
Yeah, emotional intelligence, yes.
Se dificulta perdonar, porque nuestro ego es el que está herido y somos incapaces de reconocerlo, y duele mucho reconocer que es el ego el que nos está dominando.
So our personality, from the time of our ego self, okay, not egotistical, but ego personality in a psychological sense, versus our higher self, our lower self. I think of a little s versus, it's in English, I know, or the higher self, the higher. So the lower part doesn't want to. It feels, you've really hurt me and damaged me. Yeah. Well, can you raise your hand? I'll give it.
Es lo mismo que digo, pero bueno, resumiendo una palabra, por orgullo.
Pride, yes. Yes, the ego, pride, yes. Yeah. I don't want to forgive first. Okay, one or two more.
To avoid feeling weak because of the sweetness of revenge. You are seeking for revenge before forgiveness.
Yeah. And so also that we may appear weak also to someone if we do that. Go ahead. And we still want revenge.
Creo que a veces el dolor se vuelve una motivación y ya no sabemos deslindarnos de eso. It becomes our motivation, our hurt and our pain, and we try to move on, but then it's like, but then why am I moving forward if I'm not hurting anymore?
It's familiar. It's familiar. We're so used to living with it. We don't know it's part of our fiber. I'm so used to living with my fingers, I don't think about it, okay? Pain and grievances and unforgiving thoughts are the same way. We live with them in our being. It doesn't mean they have to stay there. Hello, news alert. We don't have to keep it. We have choices about how we deal with that. Yes, so well put.
Pues se parece a lo que
Can you
dijo
raise your
ella.
hand so I can see it? Yes, thank you.
Se parece porque yo iba a decir por miedo a que la siguiente situación demande algo de mí que no tengo, responsabilidad, poder, capacidad.
Yeah, so power. You know, the ego says that we have power over the other person in our righteousness, that we are right and they are wrong. And that that is the power that the ego uses to keep us in the same place. Because at a core level, the ego doesn't work for your happiness. It's not an enemy, it's just the psyche inside of us. And you, because you are a larger being than you think you are, have the ability to change the direction of the ego. I need my ego to get across the street because the bus is coming. I don't want to get hit by the bus. So we use that as a human being. But it's when it runs us, when we think it has power over us. We think there's this other thing in us that's running our lives. Yes.
También puede ser por mantener la postura de ser víctima, de verme bien ante los demás y mantener mi idea de que yo tengo la razón y los demás están mal.
Yes. So being a victim is a very comfortable place to be. Right? If we haven't done it ourselves, we know somebody who does. Some people just live in that mode. They live in the mode of the victim because, well, I don't have to do anything about my life because I'm just the victim of the world. The world is running my life, you know? And that is a choice. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all on a journey. There's no good, no bad here. There's no should or should not. It's just an awareness of how, if you've let yourself feel like the victim. In that little incident with the car, I could have felt like the victim because he threatened my life at that moment. You always have a choice. And you know what? If you choose one way and later on it doesn't work for you, you can always choose again. Because the past only exists inside of your head. It only exists in you. There's not some place like, oh, that's where the past lives. No. It's in you. And your past, you hold. Nobody else holds it. They may know a lot about you, whatever, but nobody holds your past. You are in charge of how you view the past. And then, in the present, you have new choices. As I said, there are things that happen to all of us in our past, including the behavior of siblings or parents or teachers or whatever it is. And choice is so powerful. Free will, you know this term, free will? You've heard this term? We have free will, right?
Libre albedrío.
Catholic teachers, we have free will to choose once again how I want to perceive the past. Do I want to have a bunch of suitcases lined up with all the people I'm upset with, and I'm dragging it around with me everywhere I go in my life? Okay? And it affects all the relationships in the moment. You don't think it does, but it does. If you don't heal with your father in your mind, he doesn't have to even know it. It's not about the other person. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about freeing ourselves, as so many of you said. But you're going to be dragging that person around, probably into your adult relationships. Hello, I know that one. And it's hard to see that you're reacting to this person that you love, this partner, this male or this female, with the shadow of the unhealed relationship you have with either your father or your mother. My Jerry had to do healing with his mother. She was about this tall, and he said, oh, no. Someone said, oh, your mother is so tiny. He goes, oh, no, she's 9 feet tall. She's like, in his mind. So he did healing with his mother. I did healing with my father. And a lot of times we are drawn to people to do this. But if you don't know why, you don't know about that, you will just act it out. And usually we ruin our relationships, so we fall apart, we get separate, somebody leaves us, whatever. So there's lots of reasons why we don't forgive. And the ones you heard today, take them with you, because there's always a choice. Remember that what you are forgiving did not happen in this moment before, or 5 minutes ago, or an hour ago, or a day, a week, a month, a decade ago. It's happening right now. So what's happening now? What's happening now are my thoughts, my attitudes, my judgments, my choices about that experience. I can't change what happened to me as a kid. One of my favorite definitions of forgiveness, this woman in a workshop one time years ago, she said, forgiveness is giving up all hopes for a better past. Forgiveness is giving up all hopes for a better past. It's not going to change. You know Oprah Winfrey, the American, you know the American.
Yes,
Oprah Winfrey?
we do.
She has had on her show, she had Jerry on her show. And now, even we have it on the website, there's a little video. She said, my life changed when I heard Dr. Jerry Jim Polson say, forgiveness was giving up all hopes for a better past. It's not going to change. You can moan and groan and be a victim and carry it around your whole life. Good luck with that. Because it's not going to change. You have to change your perception of it. That doesn't mean deny it. That doesn't mean the person wasn't responsible for what they did. It doesn't mean, as someone said so well, that it has to look a certain way. My father was dead when I was 19. I didn't even figure out a way to forgive him until I was in my 30s. And you know what? I did everything. I read all these books. I was getting my degrees. I knew about everything psychologically. Intellectually, I could understand everything. But again, I hadn't made that journey in my heart. And I had nowhere else to go in my heart. I knew I could see that I was going to trash my relationship with Jerry, which was pretty new. And I knew I needed to heal, but I didn't know how. And I remember this moment. I was 37 years old. And I got down on my knees. And I just said, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it. But I'm open. I'm sure you've tried to tell me before. But now I'm really listening. I had a little pure willingness. In the Course in Miracles, it talks about, you don't have to know everything about it. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to get a degree in domestic violence like I did. You don't have to do any of that. You have to have a little pure willingness which says, I really want to let this go. I really want to heal. And I was on my knees and I said, I am listening. And then what downloaded for me was something that I wrote out. And it was this healing, incredible healing poem to my father. And it was that I realize now, you did what you could do. And for me, I realize now, you were such a teacher. He was such a teacher for me. I went and got my PhD in psychology, and my dissertation was in domestic violence. In a time where we didn't even know what the words, we didn't even have those words, domestic violence. And it helped so many people. And in my healing, I helped others. I never would understand trauma in family if I hadn't had that experience with my father. So I look at the gift the Dalai Lama has in my hands, beautifully wrapped, and I chose to open it up. I chose to open and see the gifts my father gave me. In so many, because I chose to receive them. It has nothing to do with what he did or didn't do. And it was so extraordinary for me that I was able to release it. And I perceived it differently. Someone said to see differently. It was the greatest gift I gave myself. I gave myself the gift of my own peace of mind. I chose peace over conflict, and I chose love over fear. And it no longer ran my life, and it allowed me to go ahead and have a beautiful relationship with someone, because I wasn't still having a relationship with my father, I was having it with this person, and I learned so deeply from that. So, in many ways, you can sort of see it you know, as a gift. A lot of us have had, you know, traumas from our school age, right? I mean, people can identify with that, whether it's with education or whatever, right? It's friends, or it's hard. And I love teachers. My family is all teachers. My sister, my sister-in-law, niece, they're all teachers. And like I say, I am in a little way. And I want to tell you a story that was like a miracle. I don't know how it happened, but it was one of these miracles that happened in my life. By the way, if you really believe in that idea that a miracle is a shift in perception that removes the blocks to the awareness of love's presence in our lives, it is extraordinary, because then you feel like you're entitled to miracles. Everybody is. And they start to happen. Life happens in ways that you can't even comprehend. Some of the things that happened in my life, I don't even have no idea how they happened, but they did. Well, the people I meet, it's never, ever, ever an accident. Whether it's never the translators in our lives all over the world, the people who drive the taxis, never an accident, never an accident. So I want to tell you this story. I haven't shared this in years, but I think it's important. How many people went through Catholic school education? Catholic school? Yeah. Oh, a lot. Yeah, I figured there'd be a lot here. Okay, I did too. And I'm so grateful for my education. It was really extraordinary. And my brother, like my husband, is very dyslexic. You know dyslexia?
Yeah.
When he was younger, my brother's going to be 80. And my husband, nobody ever heard of this. They just thought you were stupid, or that you didn't, you know, you didn't pay attention, or you didn't work hard enough. And my brother was left back in the second grade. My Jerry was left back in kindergarten. And he struggled with dyslexia. But it made him humble and beautiful and a visionary. But my brother Andrew, who I adore, was just 2.5 years older than me. He was very dyslexic, but we didn't understand it because he was so smart and so clever and so mechanical. And he was left back in the second grade. He was left back in the 6th grade. And then he was left back as a sophomore in high school, and he quit. He quit in the second year of high school. And he went to work in the unions. Gradually, he married my beautiful sister-in-law, who's a PhD in disabilities, of course. At the university, he got his degree and went on and was extremely successful in business. But let me tell you something that happened. When he was in the 6th grade, he had been left back twice. He's 3.5 years older than me. Guess what? He was in my classroom. And my sister was a year ahead of him, and my sister's really smart. She became a nun, she's like that. She's like really smart. Speaks all these languages, a year ahead of him. We found out years later, his disorder was he would read one word, and the word would come off the page, and he'd have to put the word back down. It was really, really different. One of the many kinds of dyslexia. I want to tell you the story. In the 6th grade, we had a sister, the nun, Sister Avidia. And she was big, and she had these bottle glasses. She must have been visually challenged. And the kids, as often was, they would line the seats up by their grades. So the kids in the last row, like my brother, the big kids, were always climbing around or whatever, and they would, it was just really hard. It was challenging. And I know my brother felt a lot of shame, but he covered it up. It became tough, you know. Well, I want me to fast forward. And my brother was pretty damaged by that. I'm going to fast forward, 45 years. I am with my brother and his family out in the Hamptons on Long Island. And my brother, who was raised like me in sort of a violent environment where there's a volcano ready to erupt, you become like a radar screen. You become very sensitive to what's going on. My brother's very sensitive. although he acts tough. He said to me, Diane, let's go visit our old home. This is like an hour away. I go, great, that would be fun. I'd like that. We go to our old house. And then he says to me, about 2 blocks away is where we went to school, in St. Joseph's. He says, let's go down and see St. Joseph's. I go, all right. I thought it was a little odd because I know he had this horrible experience there. We go past the school, and there's a driveway that goes into the parking lot. And in the middle of the parking lot is the convent where the nuns live, or the garden. My brother says, let's go in the back. I'm thinking this is really weird. And then he pulls up in front of the convent, and he says, let's knock on the door and see who's there. And I went, okay, what's going on? This is like your worst nightmare. Why would you, I don't understand. And my brother just looked at me, and he said, Diane, I need to go there. And then I knew something else was happening. And so I said, okay. We walk in the gate. There's the little 2-story house there, and there's a garden around it. This is 45 years later. We go to knock on the door, and we look to the left, and there's the back of a nun. And Andy said, let's go see who that is. We go over, she turns around, and it's Sister Amelia. Now, she was 94 years old, and she lived in Nova Scotia. She was here visiting for 2 weeks. So we don't know this. We go over, she turns around, my brother goes like this, and I go. And my parents were very active in the church. My sister became a nun for years. She turns around and she goes, who's there? Because she's blind now. And I go, Sister Avidia, it's Diane Cirincione. You know, I said, you remember Tom and Phyllis's daughter and Catherine's sister? And she goes, Andrew. She puts her hands up. She goes, how is Andrew? And my brother, I look at him and he looks like he's like 11 years old. I said, Sister, if you turn to your left, he's right here. And she turns around and she goes, Andrew. And my brother starts apologizing for giving her a hard time as a kid. And she goes, no, Andrew, no. And she takes his hand, she goes, you don't understand. I woke up this morning and I prayed that I could ask you to forgive me. And he said, oh, no, sister. And she said, yes. She said, we didn't know that children learn differently. We didn't know. And I know now how damaging that was. Meanwhile, my brother's crying, I'm crying, and it was like, oh my God, how did this happen? And she said, I asked God to let me live long enough that I could ask you to forgive me. Andrew, please forgive me. And they held each other, and then I held her. And after we left, we got in the car, and my brother and I were speechless. Because it's this other part of us. The universe conspires for our happiness, capital U. All the ways to heal your life are there. They're in front of you. It's possible. You just have to choose it. It was so healing for my brother. Sister Avidia died peacefully in her sleep 3 weeks after we saw her.
Wow. 3 weeks.
I don't know what's happening, but I know what happens. It's this presence in the world with a capital P. However you call it, however you name it. It's here. And we can access it all. It's that spiritual human essence side of ourselves, regardless of what happened to us. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody has different opportunities to heal what happened to them. Somehow the ego says, my life was supposed to be perfect. And look, you messed it up, my brother or sister, or my mother or father, or the nuns, or whoever else. My boyfriend, my spouse, whatever. The ego says, you didn't make my life perfect. My life was supposed to be happy. No, it wasn't meant to be that way. That's a myth. It's meant to be whatever you begin with, there you are. And the harder it is, the more opportunity you have. I tell my patients, sometimes my clients, if you're going through something really hard, I go, you're in graduate school. This is like big time what you're working with right now. This is like a great opportunity. And you don't have to take the course, and you don't have to take the test. You can stay right where you are. And then, some morning when you wake up, if it's not working for you anymore, and you want to change your life, you know that you have power to change your life. And that forgiveness is so the key to happiness. It's really, it is the gift that we are given. Why do we have forgiveness? Why is it even a thing, right? It's to do a correction of our experience, our perception. Again, it doesn't mean the other person isn't responsible for what they do. Because once we have the forgiving heart, then, I work with social workers a lot, and social workers see the worst in violence in families, against children. It's like, we work with them because they burn out. It's so painful, because they see these horrible things that are done to human beings. And they're in so much pain, they take it with them. And what the work of attitudinal healing does, it helps them not deny what they see, because they must look at it, they must report it. But it's their judgments about the situation, not their evaluation, not their objective evaluation, but their judgments about it that are causing them the pain. So it's your own judgments about that person, that horrible father, that horrible mother. How could they do that? They didn't feed their kids or clothe them, or they murdered their baby, or all these horrible things. So it's the judgment. If they take the judgment off, then they ask inside, what do I need to think? What do I need to say? What do I need to do? And then they can follow the law, or in your cases, you can follow what comes to you. Like, I really will not have that friendship with this person anymore because it's not trusting. Or I am really clear that I no longer want to live or be married to this person. Okay? The clarity comes with it. But you're not caught up in all the baggage of the anger and the rage and the violence. All those things are valid. They are valid. Our anger, our rage, the feeling that the hatred sometimes we have for people, those are things that come with being human. Transformation is transforming that. So I'm going to give you an image. Like, imagine we have two altars up here. Two altars, right? On the one altar is feeling like a victim, anger, rage, revenge, I'm never going to forgive. Over here on this altar is, I choose to see things differently. This person is responsible for their own life. I am not responsible for it unless it's justice, because justice should be served. But I do it not with violence in my own heart. Violence breeds violence. Anger breeds anger. And hatred breeds hatred. And love breeds love. So there's two altars. And I say in your own mind, keep those two altars. Because wherever you worship, that's what you will experience. You choose the value in your own mind of what is important, what is valuable, what is true for you. Okay? The altar that you worship at, really. It sounds dramatic, but I think it's really important because we feel like, oh, I have to be over here. Or sometimes we feel like we have to have these feelings because someone else we love was really hurt or damaged. And to be loyal to that person, I must hold on to the grievance and the anger with them. You will serve that other person in a far greater way with your own healing. Doesn't mean you do anything with them. Your healing is a presence in the world. Everything is a vibration. last night. Science says, oh my gosh, we open the atom. Whoa, they call it the God particle. Did you know that? In science, they call it the God particle because they opened it up and they went, oh my gosh, there's this vibrational force that we can't explain. It's always wonderful when science can explain something. And that vibration is part of what we put out in the world. And your love, as well as your anger, or hatred, or revenge, is like a pebble in the ocean, and it spreads always. It's always going. It keeps going. But more importantly than all those things are the thoughts in your own mind. The thoughts in your mind. For me, if I'm feeling upset in any way, I ask myself this one thing. Is what I am thinking, what I am saying, and what I am doing in harmony? Thinking, saying, doing. Lined up. I keep this line in my mind. Because if I am thinking one way and saying or doing in another way, I have lack of peace. I am choosing conflict. My definition for peace of mind for me, one of them, is that a harmony and an integrity in what I think, what I say, and what I do. So whenever you find yourself feeling upset, ask yourself, are one of these things out of alignment? And then you have a choice. You can keep it out of alignment. Remember, it's always a choice and it's your choice. That's the good news. You're in charge. You're actually in charge of your life. You're not in charge of the world. You're not in charge of all the things that happen out there. You're not in charge of your politicians, okay? You're in charge, though, of your own world. You are that co-creator, and that is a very, very powerful place to be, because you can choose that peace over conflict and the love over fear. I'm going to open it up for questions in just a minute. Let me see if there's something else I wanted to share. What was the answer? Is the book?
Amar es la respuesta.
What is it?
Amar es la respuesta.
Oh, okay. Amar.
La respuesta.
Okay. Let me see. Is it in Spanish?
Sí.
Oh, okay, it's in Spanish. When we were writing this book, Love is the Answer, Jerry and I wrote many books together. One of my favorite, we put cartoons in the book because my husband is dyslexic. And he thought early on, with Love is Letting Go of Fear, he should put cartoons in because he understood the cartoons. He created them. And we have our artist friend, John. And 32 publishers in New York turned down Love is Letting Go of Fear. 32 publishers. My husband was persistent if he was anything. And finally, a publisher in California published the book in 1979. Okay? It's in its 4th printing now and has sold a little under 9 million books. And it's in 32 languages. So he knew the simplicity of images. So there's an image in Love is the Answer that I created. And it's a picture of a woman in a jail. Okay. She's inside the jail with her unforgiving thought, her anger, her lack of forgiveness. She's the person that I'm angry at. Outside the jail is the jailer. If you put someone in jail in your mind, just like in jail in person, what do you have to do? You've got to stand guard and make sure you don't forget that person. You've got to use up all your emotional space. You've got to keep feeding it, or what happens if you don't feed somebody in jail? They die. You have to keep feeding your angry thoughts. So inside of every unforgiving thought is like a little jail. Okay? You're both. You're the person in the jail and you're also the jailer. So when I set someone else free through my forgiveness, I mean that I am letting them be responsible for what they did in this incarnation. It's their responsibility. And for me, when I forgive, then I'm free. I'm out of jail. We put ourselves in jail with these thoughts. Nobody else has done it. The event, yes, the horrible event that occurred. And most of us have at least one, if not many, and over time. That is no longer here now. And one of the ways that we react in life is that we keep projecting our beliefs through the past. And what does that do with the future? We co-create, because we are so powerful, we co-create situations in the future, right? In our mind, we unconsciously create them. You know, the future doesn't exist. It's something we made up. The word future, where is it? Does anybody know where the future is? In our heads. It's in our heads. It's in our minds. That's the only place the future lives. And we give it so much power to be afraid, to be nervous. I know, I've done it in my own life. But it doesn't exist. And you know what? The only place that the past exists, inside our own minds. The whole world exists inside of our own minds. It's our world, our inner world. Okay? The good news is, I have the ability to heal the past and not be afraid of the future. I have the ability to be right in this present moment. I often ask myself the question, is what I am upset about, what I am upset about happening right now? Or is it something from the past? Well, my ego says, oh no, it's happening right now. Right now, I'm really not at it. There's an expression that says, from A Course in Miracles, it says, you are never upset for the reasons you think. You are never upset for the reasons you think. Well, my ego goes, of course I'm upset about this. Look what this person did. I'm upset about this right now. Okay. The fact that I can't look at this to see this person as fearful, see them as unloving, the fact that I'm so charged means there's an overlay in my belief system from the past. From my perceptions, my projections, I am projecting onto this something that is unhealed in the past. What is the gift? Beautifully wrapped, as His Holiness says. You open the gift and you say, what is this situation? If, this is such an irritating statement, if it's really true, then I'm never, it's an absolute word, never upset just for the reasons I think. Then what am I really upset about? When did I feel this before? Who did this to me before? What is unhealed? It's in the box. It's in the gift. Beautiful box. You just have to open it. Open it inside and go, oh, I see. This experience is giving me and teaching me, giving me the opportunity to know that I still have business back here to take care of and to heal that in the moment. Do you see how every single opportunity, every one is a teaching moment? Every one. We have the ability to heal ourselves. And we don't have to. Keep remembering that I said that. You know, my husband's mom, the little one, when she was 94, we would visit her all the time. And she was just grumbling and complaining and everything else all the time. And we would go really loving and we'd leave really miserable. Just like, oh my God, we just failed completely. Finally, one day, we're in the parking lot before we go. And my husband, Jerry, says to me, you would like Jerry, he was normal. Jerry says to me, you know, every time we go up to see my mom, we feel really good when we go, and we feel really badly when we leave. He said, she's determined to be miserable. He said, how about this? How about if we decide to completely accept my mom's decision to be miserable and not to change her? I go, I'm in. So we meditate a little bit. We go up, with that little prayer that I did yesterday. We did that I'm here only to be truly helpful. We go upstairs. We have a visit with her. She didn't change at all. We felt great when we left. And each time we visited her, it was a little different. Finally, after about 2 months, she said, Jerry, how many of those books did you and Diane write? We tell her. She goes, bring in some of those books next time. This place could really use that stuff. So we brought it in, we brought in the audio books, they put them on the little cart, and the next time we came and the head nurse, who hated Tilly, they couldn't stand each other. They're in the room and they're discussing all these principles, of the books. And she changed. I mean, you shouldn't expect someone to change. You shouldn't, be dependent on that. But once in a while, she changed completely. She was 94. She died at 98. And it was like the most extraordinary transformation I think I've ever seen. And Jerry's older brother, who was a very well-known ophthalmologist, he thought she had a stroke. But we said, oh no, I don't think so. Anyway, and those kinds of changes are really, they can happen. We didn't do it for her. And remember this statement, you can accept another person's decision to be miserable or the way they are. People have to be how they are, okay? It's learning to respect that and tear up our script. There's another picture in Love is the Answer of me standing over a garbage pail and tearing up a script. And the story that goes with that is one of the early times when Jerry and I were on the stage. We would stand next to each other and just talk to the audience. And one time, early on, he was much more forthcoming than I was about my personal life. Still didn't talk about certain things. And he started talking about something, and in my mind, I went, oh my God, I can't believe he's talking about that. But meanwhile, I'm smiling, I'm going. And I thought, if I keep this thought, this is important, if I keep this thought in my head, there's no way I'm going to be able to listen to Spirit tell me what to think and say and do. I'm not going to be able to move with where Jerry, we were very egalitarian always. I was in my judgments of him. And in my mind, while he's talking away, I'm smiling, just standing there kind of like this. In my mind, I take a piece of paper, I write script for Jerry. And in my mind, I swear, this is what I did. I tore up my script for Jerry, and I threw it in the garbage bin. And then we went on. And never again did I have that thought. It was always like, he needs to go where he needs to go, and he trusts me to go where I need to go in the conversation, with our audiences. It was like, it was amazing. It was so powerful. Do you see how powerful the mind is? Your mind can change anything. I don't mean your brain. I don't mean your brain, your body. I mean mind, which is connected with all that is. Our brain is magnificent. And we have all these responses. I can stand here on the stage because my brain is telling my body to stand up. Okay? I mean mind. And I mean mind with a capital M. However you define it, however we are connected with the source of life. And I really believe with all my heart that the universe conspires for each and every one of our happiness. Each and every one of us, without exception. And when we have really, 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 horrible persons in our lives, either global figures, it could have been Hitler, it could have been, so many beings, Stalin, or even in our families or whatever, I think to myself, this is their incarnation. This is their life path. They are here to teach me how I don't want to be. Whenever I meet someone who is just acting really badly, I think, oh, this is kind of what I don't want to do in the world. So thank you for teaching me that. I had 4 businesses, but I never went to business school. Would have been so much easier if I did. But I learned from others in the corporate world what I did not want to do. And that was so valuable. You don't learn that in school. So with people who are really, really bad, and you want to judge them, you want to just like throttle them and get rid of them in the world, remember, they're in their silo. And I think the best revenge is they have to live their lives as themselves. But they don't kind of know it. Usually someone's a narcissist personality or whatever. The key thing is that for you, and for me, it's the anger and the rage that I feel. Not that I shouldn't have passion, be outraged at what's happening. It's how I deal with that. In the 1980s, I was deeply involved in the anti-nuclear movement. I mean, there's enough of you old enough to remember when we thought we were going to blow each other up with nuclear weapons, right? And Dr. Helen Caldecott, you may not know who that is, the Australian pediatrician who recruited 16,000 physicians for social responsibility, was engaged in all of that. And they asked me to do a workshop for these anti-nuclear activists. By the way, sorry guys, most of the activists in the world are the women. It's like amazing how many are so incredibly courageous in leading these movements. And then also, so many women, okay? Greta Thunberg is one of my heroes. So, anyway, in this workshop, it was so fascinating that after 15 years of working on this, it's kind of like the story of the teachers last night. Some of them were so enthusiastic, they were passionate, and they were still working. And the others were so burned out, they didn't know what to do in the world. And because of the way they approached it, the attitude. Remember yesterday I talked about the teachers, the 2 teachers? Well, this is the same thing. Their attitude about the ones who were still had all this energy, they wanted to keep changing, they wanted to keep working at changing the world, but they knew how to take care of their inner world. The others were burned out because everything was external. So I think that this applies in all aspects of our lives, all of them. I'm going to open it up for questions. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, maybe before I do, I was going to do this at the end, but I'm going to do it now. Are we doing it? I created an exercise for myself. I had a business partner, and we had some companies together for a long time, and leaving that was very, very difficult. And that's when I had met Jerry. And I was having a hard time before I was going to see my partner again. And I had to do something in my mind to change the energy that I brought, because it was contentious. I made up this visualization, and I'm going to ask you a question. I'd like you to think of someone in your mind that you have still not forgiven. The first person that comes to your mind. You might be crowded, but the first person that comes in your mind. The first person who you have not yet completely and totally forgiven. Again, it doesn't mean you agree with them or that you're not letting them off the hook. None of that. In your own mind, what are you now? Has everyone found someone in their mind? Anybody not found anybody? Okay, everybody found someone, right? Probably a couple of people. But pick one person, okay? I'm going to do this quick exercise with you so that you can use it whenever you want to shift the energy. I did this with my partner. That's how I started it. Now I do it with Donald Trump. I do it with other people. And So I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to picture the face of that person, just the face, close up. Not smiling, not frowning, just no expression. Okay? And now I want you to surround the back of the person with an incredibly beautiful, warm, golden light behind them. Okay? So the person's face is in the front, the light is in the back. And I want you to look at them, look in their eyes. And I'm going to ask you to say 4 things in your mind. Don't question them, don't add on to it. Don't give circumstances, just 4 things. And even if you may or may not mean it, I want to teach you how to do this. I'm going to say it as if it's me, and I'm looking at this person. The first one is, I forgive you, and I forgive myself. And then the person's face gets a little bit smaller, and the light gets a little bit brighter and larger. I thank you. That's for the present, remember? I thank you, and I thank myself. And the person's face is getting smaller and smaller. And the light is getting bigger and brighter behind them. I love you, and this is love at the highest level, not what you did or didn't do. I love you, and I love myself. And now that face is getting very small, and the light is much, much, much bigger, this healing light. And the last thing I say is, I release you, and I release myself, and puff, they go into a point of light and disappear. And I am flooded with the light of forgiveness. I am flooded with this in my whole being. You can open your eyes now. So it goes, I forgive you, and some of you want to write this down. I forgive you, I forgive myself. Blanket forgiveness. I thank you for the gifts that I have learned and I'm still learning from you. I thank you, I thank myself. I love you because you are part of that vibrational force. We are all connected. As I hate me, I hate myself. Okay, so I love you at the highest level. I don't know what you did or anything like that. I love you at the highest level. I love myself. And I release you because I want to release myself. That exercise can be used so many times in your life. And you can keep doing it with the same person if you want to. Because forgiveness is kind of like a lotus flower. It keeps kind of opening. People say, how long does it take to forgive? How long do you think it takes to forgive? That's what you call it. How long does it take to forgive?
As long as you want.
As long as you want. Bingo. As long as you want, as long as you think it will take. If you think it's going to take, if you think I'm never going to forgive that person, guess what?
Never forgive.
You'll never forgive them. If you say, it'll take a long time, but I'll forgive them. How long will it take? A long time. Your mind is powerful. Okay? I'm going to forgive them in a little while, but I'm really still pissed off at them. How long will it take? A little while. If you believe that forgiveness can happen in an instant, in a moment, you can actually be done with this. done with that person, done with that influence on your life, done with the blockage of that holding you back, then you can do it in the instant. It is though, people say, well, yeah, but I felt like I really forgave. I felt like I really forgave my father. And then when other thoughts came up, like a year later, I thought, oh my God, I failed forgiveness. I flunked. No, I didn't. It's just that I was ready for a new level of awareness that I was able to deal with, because it has many layers to our experiences. And if it comes back, you should do the exercise again, because you are in a new place of forgiveness. You're growing in this. It's alive and it's vibrant. And remember, forgiveness will take as long as you think it will take. So if you say never, it's okay. That baggage, I hope you got some designer luggage with wheels on it, because you're going to be carrying it around your whole life. And you know what? Like Tilly, I'm okay with you carrying it around your whole life. It's really only up to you. It's your life. You're the one that decides. Okay? All right, I wanted to open up our last time for, we have time for a half hour. I want to open it up for questions. I don't know if I have the answers, but I'd love to